Ruby.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this edition of What Matters. I'm so glad you could join me this evening. And today, as you see, we have returning guests.
Hey.
So Crystal Mark has joined us again. And today
Thanks
she's
for having
also brought with her
Camar Cameron.
Camar Cameron. And both of these ladies are from the Malton Moms group. Now, in the last episode where Crystal had joined us, she did speak about her job, which was... Please break it down because it's a long title.
Again, my job is Manager of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for our Children's Aid Society in the Greater Toronto region.
And Kamar?
So presently I'm the co-founder of Malton Moms, and after this I'm going for election debate because it's that time of year again.
It's that time of year. So these wonderful ladies have joined us. We do have a third guest that will be on during another segment, and that is Miss
Nadine Ruby,
Nadine
also
Ruby.
co-founder of Malton Moms. The three of us got together and we decided that we need to put some advocacy together, and our skills, our different talents, let's say, what we bring to the group is what makes us a unique and driving force. So Nadine offers a certain set of skills that you'll see. Kamar has a set of skills, I have a set of skills, and together us three, we run things.
I love it. So the coordination. Now, let's start at the beginning because this episode we are going to cover for the parents that are out there, and even, I'd be really, really glad to know that there are some young people out there listening, students themselves. But for the parents that are out there, this episode is really important, and that's why I was really, really excited to have Crystal come back to speak about advocacy within our school system. Because especially as parents of minority children, we often feel that the system is against us. And the things that are there, the tools that are there, are designed against us. But with knowledge and information, you can use those very tools to help empower your children, to help them succeed, and to help them navigate the system. So that is definitely one of the topics we'll be touching on. And we will also highlight a few cases where children's rights were violated, where they were abused. You may find similarities to situations, your own situation. So this is going to give you some information to get the ball rolling on what you can do to empower yourself and your children. Now, Malton Moms, just to let you know, you're going to see their logo go up on the screen, but they have their website, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and it's all under Malton Moms with an S. So you can always reach out to the founders, to the members, to get more help, to get direction on where to go. So let's start at the beginning on the founding of Malton Moms and how it began. Now, Crystal already threw you under the bus, and I know you tried to escape, but the last time Crystal was here, she did discuss a bit how Malton Moms got started, and it really was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a grassroots initiative. It was really women getting together and saying, we need things we don't have, so let's make them, which I love. And like she said, they all have their specific skill set, and they brought it to the table, and they run things now. So tell us a bit about the beginning, the founding of Malton Moms. How did it begin?
Well, we actually have a prenatal program within the region of Peel, and I was having my middle child, and Crystal was having her last son. And so we just engaged with each other. We utilized what resources there were, and it was a great place to meet diverse and ethnic people, especially in Malton, because it's unusual for us to have a gathering place and a safe space. So once we had our children, we're like, we want to continue meeting because we really enjoyed kindred spirit. She's my sister. We've known each other as long as our children are here. It's been 11 years, but almost 12 years. Oh yes, next week. Happy birthday when it comes for her son. But we figured that, listen, we need to have everything that's down at square one in Malton because we didn't have anywhere to go. There was no cafes, no coffee shops. So we're like, all right, why don't we create our own cafe? And we actually decided to write a grant, and we received it from United Way for our creative cafe.
Okay, let me interrupt. Now, for those viewers that are not in Canada, because we do have international viewers, so can you give them an idea of the distance between Square One and kind of what it is and Malton?
Okay, so Square One is let's say the center of our city, which is Mississauga. And there you have a huge mall. You have all of the beautiful buildings, the architecture, everything you could possibly want.
City beautification.
City beautification. On the roadways, there's flowers. And then within Mississauga, you have little towns. And our town is Malton, or village. It's the village of Malton. And so some get more love than others. And let's just say our village did not necessarily get as much love with infrastructure and so on and so forth.
Over 30 years and being annexed between Rexdale, Brampton and the city airport.
Right.
It makes it really hard. So we find ourselves having to advocate over and over again about what we need, which we'd love city beautification and we'd love spaces to meet and bouncy castles.
The reason that I'm smiling so brightly is because eventually we will have close-up abilities. You had to see Crystal's face when she was talking about the flowers on the road and the beautification. She's very transparent, so you had to see her face and how she how that obviously they were lacking in having those things. So and how far of a drive is it?
I would say we're very close to the highway, so it's about a 15-minute drive.
20 tops.
20 tops with traffic.
But it makes a difference.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the main issue with Malton is that we have a huge airport between us, and because of that large industrial site in the middle, it kind of locks us off. And we're infamous for calling Malton the stepsister.
We don't call Malton that.
No, people call us the stepsister of Mississauga because you're kind of like the ugly steps. Okay, Crystal is very art based. She's very visual, so she sees it as the ugly stepsister. And we've noted that when we've been fighting for more opportunities to come into Malton. Okay. So with that creative cafe, we were able to do things that we saw coming out of community centers, out of Square One, like scrapbooking, photography. And as usual with Malton Moms projects, we always engage the children. Children were never, ever not a part of any type of activity that we always did, because as a mom, status quo is you tend to have children or a caregiver of children. And so everything that we've always done in design has always had children inclusive. So we do our scrapbooking, and then we'd have a separate class at the same time where they're outside, going out in nature, finding flowers, whatever. It was always something that was always inclusive, where the children were never left behind.
And then we came together and had that discussion, and it brought I learned things about my kids, and vice versa. Everybody learned so much about who they were, and for example, our poetry development. I love writing, but I didn't know that one of my daughters was prolific in writing.
Amazing.
But it gave me that opportunity. And then we didn't make it just exclusively moms. We had pops, we had grandpas, we had and
aunties.
Aunties and grandmas,
right?
Family. So with that grant, but it took us a while to get to that grant, but it was that camaraderie. And yes, Camar and I just became these kindred spirits. I have lots of friends who are moms, but I didn't have any mom friends, friends who were
that you linked up based on that commonality.
And then that commonality of being a mom and getting through the trenches.
And living in the same neighborhood.
That's right.
Like that village feeling. So, and we see how quick it goes? I told you. So, when we come back from the break, we are going to very briefly touch on any of you who are in small communities. You heard them mention writing a grant, so they'll just touch briefly on that and how you can start for your own community and make that happen where you live, because it really takes a village. So when we're back from the commercial, we're going to learn more about community building and advocacy. I swear to you, I'm articulating for your children. We'll be back after this break.
Okay.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back to this edition of What Matters. And I have with me the founding members of the Malton Moms. We've got Crystal Mark and Camar, last name? Cameron. And these ladies have founded a group that is now almost 12 years strong, and it has united a whole community. And they were not exclusive to just mothers, of course, that's where it usually starts. But they're sharing their journey on how they were able to create a network and a group that was so supportive and inclusive and got a community really rolling and together. So before the break, you mentioned that you had, and you said it so casually, I love when people who do great things just kind of throw them out there. Yeah, and then we got a grant. So yeah, then we got a grant, and then she just keeps talking. And I'm sure there are viewers at home going, how do you get a grant? Because it sounds like a really big deal and something very difficult to do. So how did you, because obviously there's a huge financial component to this as well, right?
Well, we live in a Canadian context, especially in Ontario. Mm-hmm. There are many places to which our tax dollars go, and so people need to be aware that your tax dollars don't just pay, your government officials and the garbage collectors and the city employees, but they also have reserve funds for things that will create. I think the province and the city recognizes that there are people out there that are movers and shakers, and what our companies or organizations today started with those little sparks. And so there's places like Ontario Trillium Foundation, United Way, which now is United Way Toronto and Peel, even organizations that like there's families out there. Like there's a whole book out there called I forgot what it's called, but it's like a scholarship and grant. Mm-hmm. So you got to just sort of do a little bit of digging, but you can also ask for like company sponsorships. One time we had an event, and Camar's mom, she's also one of the Malton Moms, even though she's a grandma too. She supports us, and she went to the mall and asked every single person at the mall if they had something to contribute as a gift for our Christmas celebration one year. And they all said yes. So I'm a real big believer, we all are, of ask and you shall receive.
Absolutely.
And with these grants, you present them with an idea, and you have to demonstrate why you think it's a good idea, mm-hmm. why you think it will create and develop more neighborhood capacity. Mm-hmm. Because what we want is not just bedroom communities that people drive home from when they're done work, but places that people are vibrant, alive, and they're engaged in their community. So we wrote a grant like that, and we were lucky to receive it. We were so lucky that they asked us to do it again. Right. And yeah.
And the reality of the grant writing, and this is the difference between me and Crystal. Crystal tells you about the blue grass and the green grass and the blue sky. I tell you that it was a lot of work to write in the information, talk about the budget, but we collaborated with other groups, because what happened is, if you're not a not-for-profit, you need a sponsor. And what happened is, once you get through your first grant, it's a lot easier to write, because you're just taking the same information. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately each group, probably their goal is usually the same over and over, so you can go ahead and rewrite a lot of the information. And when it comes to the finances, you just have to take your time and go through it line by line. For us, we had a group, we had a sponsor, and what happened is, for every event we had to make sure that we had our paperwork in order. When it came down to attendance, what budget, how many people we paid out, different things like that. And it's just about keeping organized.
Accountability.
Exactly. That was, and it has to be very
public funds.
Right, and it has to be very transparent, because you kind of have to prove ultimately it's a results-based grant, where did it make sense for us to do what we did with the money, with the funds available to do. Like I said, Nadine Ruby, she's usually our financial guru, so she'll go into some details about it. But there's lots out there. It's just about taking that time and going through, because I think a grant right now is probably about 25 pages. Mm-hmm. So you have to go page by page, and you'll get through it. And there's different courses out there that are free of cost as well. And most community centers or like community groups will have someone in the department that's there that can help you.
Mm-hmm. So from that, in summary, what I would say is, one, ask and you shall receive. That's a huge thing, and that's something that I really have seen the power of in my life in the last few years, is that I've opened my mouth and asked for things that I just asking, and I was amazed at what I was given. The other thing is to use the resources that are available. For the viewers that are not in Canada, we're very fortunate in Canada. We have a lot of community programs, but they're useless if you don't take advantage of them. If you don't, one, find out that they exist, and then two, use them to your advantage, they're of no use to you, and you can then build further on that. And then something you said that I really like, because especially here in Toronto, which is, you know, they talk about urban sprawl and all of the communities that really are that. They build up these communities, and they're just a series of houses for people to leave work and go home and sleep. And, you know, for me, you think about, well, where are the basketball courts? Where are the community centers? What are going to happen to these children that live in these homes that are no longer 2 and 3 and 4 years old when they're teenagers? And, you know, the small town problem is that idle hands are the devil's workshop. And when they have nothing to do and there is no sense of community, bad things happen.
Not only that, but when you start socializing them from they're small, you're building social skills. You're teaching them about engagement, citizenship, civic duty, and all of that. And it gets in them. It gets in them because, you know, my parents weren't social activists, but they involved us in every sport that existed in all the little activities. My husband, his mom was there in the community. So he gets that from there. And so we're just trying to give our children an opportunity, because if you're out there and you're making that change, you're going to be exposed to other opportunities. And one thing I want to say that, you know, beyond our Canadian borders, it's like, there's this Jamaican saying, every mickle makes a muckle. Like, you got to...
Every mickle make a muckle.
That's what I said, yeah. Anyway, and then, so what it is grab what you can, right, to make what you need, right? And so, like, maybe in a place like Detroit, where things are very hard, there's amazing community development strategies going on there, because people are using what they have, and they're using the tools and the people and the willingness. That's social capital is what means more sometimes to you than the money. When the grant people ask you, well, what do you have to give us in exchange for that 30,000? You can say, well, we have, 30 invested people who are going to give you these amount of hours, and that these amount of hours at this amount of wage means this. So they want to know that you have the community behind you. And that's a really big, important piece. It's not just about the finance, but the social capital.
The social capital, because you do see a lot of, I'm a great lover of social media. I see it for the good. It's like any other tool or any other thing. You can take a knife and you can stab someone, or you could take a knife and divide up bread. It's really what you do with the tool. And you see a lot of amazing stories about people, like you said, that took that mickle and really, like the loaves, really multiplied it. And sometimes it just takes that spark, that one person in your community who's trying, and then people join them. And then through organization, and you play on the strengths of the people. Some people are, like you said, they're the financial gurus. Other people are the people who see the beautification of things. And you take all those talents, you fuse them, and you start your foundation. So for the viewers out there, this is one of the reasons I was so excited about this show and so excited to have you ladies on, is because you are a level of inspiration that is needed, because they're sitting here and they've done it. It's 12 years strong, and it's made a tremendous difference in their community. And the stepsister was really Cinderella, and now she's in her palace, and they're doing good. And I'm sure there are communities around you that were inspired by your work and have started their own things. So in order to solve, a lot of the things that they say that are wrong with our communities and wrong with this generation, it's that lack of community and that division, and everybody going in their house. It's from the houses, everybody in a different room, and in these apartments, everybody's in their own apartment, and it's just that division. So if we can get together and make your communities and start those villages that raise those children back, I think we'll see a tremendous difference in our preteens and our teens, in our young adults that feel connected to where they live and care about where they live, and then grow to be the adults that bring up the next generation. So ladies, I commend you on such a phenomenal investment of time and self and energy, and then of course their talents and their intelligence and their amazingness.
Do go on.
Yeah, she's like, just take a sip, lady.
Thank you very much.
This is why I feel blessed to have this platform, is to be able to inspire, and really I get such a rush from meeting women like you, and this is my first time meeting Camar, that get it done. Like they say, they run things, and that wasn't a light sentence. So when we come back, you may see a little switch in the guests. When we come back, we're going to start to talk about advocacy within the school system and what you can do as a parent to really change what happens to your children and for your children. So we'll be back after this commercial break.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to this edition of What Matters. We are here with the founding members of the Malton Moms. We're discussing community building, advocacy within the school system, running things, and being awesome. So, are we not?
Yes.
So
yes,
now
yes.
in this segment, for those out there who've told me, do not use paper. Sometimes you need paper, okay? Only our brains are only so big. So we are going to, I'm stealing their notes. We're going to now be talking about voice, connection, and advocacy. And I'm going to be learning at the same speed as you. Put your hats on, get your rewind buttons ready, check in, because if you have children that are in school, going into school, and even friends and family that are struggling, there's a lot of that in our community. So I have a lot to learn. I hope you learn a lot in this segment. And Crystal, Camar, take it away.
Okay, so with voice, connection, and advocacy, we were asked by, we were asked by a local organization to come together with a project to talk about how to get parents more involved in the school system, specifically Black parents. And this comes up time and again. Black parents are very busy. We talked about the system. We talked about how the system can be set up against us. The system is inherently designed for the benefit of white people. So it happens from time to time, and it will. And that isn't a slight to white people. It's just really about the way the systems have been set up. They often can exclude or forget the voice of, one, the child, and two, the child of who is racialized. So parents need to play an important role in making sure they're visible and they're at the schools, even when it's hard for them, because we also know the competing issue is that Black parents, both of them are often at work, right? So we came up with a few strategies to talk about voice, connection, and advocacy to help parents realize and think about the ways in which they can engage the community. So there's a real importance of navigating the school system. You pay your taxes into the system. Your child is there for almost 8 hours a day. They spend more time there than at home. And therefore, the people that you're trusting, you're giving a great trust, which is your legacy, your generation, your most important asset, to them to teach and to cultivate while you go and provide their meals, their housing, etc. And so Camar and I both work as presidents in the school system. Right now, I just stepped down as president of Ascension of Our Lord Catholic Secondary in Malton, and Camar graciously was awarded presidency there. Prior to that, we had sat on Holy Cross Catholic Elementary as parent advisors. And, you know, it's a commitment of maybe, with the high school, it's actually less of a commitment. High school, they have 5 meetings a year. You put on 2 events and you get a grant to put on something like supportive for the community. So we did a wellness event that talked about, you know, different strategies for mental wellness, how to look at signs, etc. Encouragement from parents who are both working and those who are at home allow the child to flourish. So then they're going to be more willing to come to you with stuff and say, you know, this isn't working, or I'm having a hard time with this. Sometimes, for example, your child may need an IEP, individualized education plan. And let's say 25 or so years ago when I was in school, that kind of thing was looked at as like, oh no, that's a terrible label. Don't put that on your child, etc. And Black parents like would literally flutter their wings and upset, right? Now we're trying to advocate and show people, use the tool. Don't just let them label your child. The IEP, the Individualized Education Plan, is a sovereign right for your child to ask and get supports that are needed. I'll give you an example. Can I use your example?
Sure.
Okay. So Kamar's son, Kai, was having trouble with writing.
Your son's name is Kai?
Yes.
So is mine.
Okay.
Good job. Good
It's
job.
just like that. So Kai was having trouble with writing, but he was an excellent reader, excellent thought processor, but when it came to just getting it from here to here, it wasn't working. So we developed an IEP, or not we, Camar and her and the team around developed an IEP, although you are welcome to bring a support person, family member, etc. And they all sit in a conference. They individually decide that your child is exceptional and they want to provide support. Out of that, Kai was able to get a computer that would help him transcribe his work faster. And from that, his grades shot up and he was doing so much better. My daughter, Sable, had an IEP and she needed that for math because she was failing math, but all she needed was extra time and something that they call chunking. So taking pieces and chunking them together, work hard on this section, give a break, come back. The regular classroom just doesn't allow for that when you're thinking about the whole 30 children in one room. So how you get your voice out there is that whether you can be present or not, and Camar and I have laughed and talked about this, whether we're on the we're wearing panties and on the phone with the school
At
or
7:30
in the morning.
In the morning.
Okay, and we've been there. We laugh about that all the time. And then she calls me and she's like, do you believe what the school said? I'm going over there. And I'm like, are you dressed? And then also, okay, you know what? I can't make it in today, but I'm going to email the principal and outline to him my concerns. There are so many ways of communication now that there really isn't an excuse for you not checking in if you think your child has a problem.
And this is where we're going to the connection, because what happens is you have the information there. You as a parent know your children, and this is just what you have to do when you go into the school system. Is a lot of times, because teachers, I've been a teacher for 25 years and I know this and I have this, a master's in that and whatever, and they want to tell you that this is what the situation is. But you are the parent of this child. You've been with this child from the very first day he was born till now, and you know your child. And Crystal takes that conversation about me being in the kitchen at 7:30 in the morning in my underwear on the phone talking to the principal because I'm fighting them from removing my child from the academic stream into the applied stream. And I said no. And my child came home the day and he's like, oh, just sign this paper. And that's usually how it works. And this is like at a high school level, because for those that are older, it's when you talk about the general and the advanced. Now it's the applied and the academic. Right. And for the most part, when it comes to racialized children, they want to put them in the general or the applied stream versus the academic or the advanced. And what happened is once you drop into that screen, it kind of locks you off from where you're going to go when it comes to post-secondary. So you have a reduction where, okay, you're no longer open to senior level sciences, senior level maths that can carry you into the universities, depending on what you want to do.
Closing doors.
Right. And when you're in grade 9, one day you want to be an engineer, another day you want to be a police officer, another day you want to be a lawyer. So even at that level, and that was what happened with me, where I had to say, no, I'm not signing this paper. And my son was getting very upset with me to say, well, just do it. All the other parents sign. I said, but I'm not the other parents. So I had to go into school, and I went into school fully dressed, and I walked into the office.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah.
And I walked into the office of the principal, and I'm like, listen, I understand and I respect what you're saying, but I'm telling you, my child is not being removed to the general level math. And ultimately, what ended up happening is he had to do the Ontario
GLE course.
The math program where they do the testing. So he had to do the testing, and he scored a 93%. So for a child that has quote issues or cannot go to the academic level in math, it's just you have to fight and make them understand, what every step that you make when it comes to high school will affect what opportunities you have later on in the year.
And we did voice, we did connection, and we're gonna do advocacy. But before we go to break, there's a few things you said that really it resonated with me. Now, I had my first child when I was 16, and when I was 16, I looked 12, so it was very, very interesting. And one of those things, what you said about showing up, is something I made sure I did, because what I realized as she grew up is I got very little respect as her mother because they thought I was her sister. And then when they figured out I was her mother, they were like, yeah, okay, sure. But I would show up on the first day of school every year and go to the office and say, hi, my name is Erica and I'm Tanika's mom. And this is my phone number. If there are any problems, please call me. I lived around the corner from the school. So if you fast forward and my child gets a failing grade, I show back up. I said, yeah, I had asked you to call me if there were any problems, not after they had happened. And oftentimes things would get reversed. Tests would be retaken. And now I would be called before any results were given to say, hey, it's not looking good. And I think another thing, especially with Black moms, is whenever we express negative emotions, we're seen as the angry Black woman.
Yes.
Even when we should be angry, rightfully so. So what I suggest to parents is show up before there's a problem. Be present before it's an issue. Introduce yourself. Take part in things. Be part of the bake sale.
Ask if they can redo tests.
Ask if they could redo tests. It doesn't always have to be present in a negative connotation. It's not when your kid gets in trouble or when your child's having problems. It's showing that, I'm here and you can call me and you can come to me. So that voice being present, it can prevent a lot of problems before they even happen. And just like with patients in hospitals, children's in school, when they know that someone's watching, they don't mess with them on the same level as those absent parents. But hold on, we're gonna go to break because Nisha's gonna start waving at me. So when we come back, we've covered voice, connection. I'm cheating. And now after this, we're going to speak about advocacy. So putting those three things together to get your child what they need. And for anybody with questions on the IEP, which I've had the pleasure of using for my own children to better their education as well. Again, you can connect with the Malton Moms, Facebook, Instagram. They have their website. Crystal's information is there. Camar's information is there. And you can also send me a message and I'll make sure I redirect it to the right place. So after this break, we will be right back with the advocacy for your child in school. Welcome back to this edition of What Matters. And as you see, as I had warned you, we might have a guest switch out. And Nadine Ruby has joined us. We have to do behind the scenes one day on this episode. It's been quite interesting. So Nadine has joined us, and she is one of the members of the Malton Moms. And we've been speaking about voice. Flip it. You're trying notes. Voice connection and advocacy within the school system for our children. The founders of Malton Moms have created a group, not just of mothers, but of parents and supporters of children to enrich their community and to have programs and activities and resources for the community to thrive. So Nadine has literally just been like thrown in here.
Just thrown
right in. But as you know, they run things, so it's going to be fine. Camar's going to be nice, and she's going to kind of lead in for her. And
stories.
So that we're going to share some stories. So prior to the commercial break, they were discussing the voice and we were going to go into advocacy, how IEPs and special programs and being present really changes the outcome for children in school. So Crystal had said you had 3 stories, some real standout stories of how children were, it wasn't being played in their favor and what the end result was. So now there's see the timer there? We're under some strict manners. So no pressure.
So you should probably tell one story and you take up that time.
Well, I think what I want to share is we have to remember that education is an institution, right? It is an institution and it is a system, right? And so we have to learn how to work with the system to get the best outcomes for our youth. So one of the stories I was going to tell was of a little child who was in kindergarten, and mom went to the parent-teacher night, usual activity, go to the parent-teacher night, talking to the teacher, finding out about his experiences at school, and close to his desk, she saw a square on the floor, probably about 1 foot by 1 foot around, and she said, "Oh, what's that for?" And the teacher explained that her child was being put in that square because the teacher was concerned about his clumsiness and his size. So the child wasn't being violent to other children, the child wasn't hurting other kids, but he was 6, he was bigger for his age, he was also a young black boy, and so the teacher, when the kids had free time, was putting him in this box on the in the school on the square. Yes, that look of kind of disbelief is what happens, right? And so,
this child is in kindergarten?
Kindergarten.
And so when they would have free time, the child would have to stand in the square?
Right.
Because
that was what
why?
was happening. Because the teacher was afraid of his clumsiness and that he might hurt some of the smaller kindergartens in the room. There was no concerns about behavior. There was no concerns about him hurting other children, not aggressive, not fighting, just wanted to contain him basically, and didn't actually teach, some more about body movement and size and around, how to, be careful around other folks. What the teacher decided was the best course of action was to put him in this box, right? And mom had no idea. The child didn't share with mom that was happening, and she only found out when she went to the parent-teacher meeting. Of course, mom was quite upset, as I think any parent would be, to see that their child wasn't actually misbehaving, but being kind of quarantined, literally, to this imaginary
I would like
box.
to use the term jailed.
Yes, it's a cell.
Other
It's
people
a box.
have used that term, yes. And so, mom did make a complaint at the school, and that was changed, right? And luckily she did speak up for her son. The school responded. It also hit the media, which also gives incentive for the school to change things. But I think the point is, that story is remembering to advocate for our children, remembering to be there, to go to those meetings, because sometimes your children won't always tell you what's happening, the full outcome of something at school. And he probably didn't think there was really much wrong with it, because that's just how it
That's
was
what
in his
he
class,
learned.
right?
Well, I mean, he probably felt like something was, but that is just how it is. That
Yes.
feeling of, well, it's how it is, so I have to accept it. And if the mother didn't go to that child interview, he would have spent another 6 weeks, 8 weeks in. Wow, I'm at a loss for words, because I would be quite upset. That would definitely be one of those step back moments and compose yourself before you speak.
Yes,
Wow.
and I'm glad that the mom did go to the media, because then it got out there that this is what was happening. The second story, again, another child, I believe she was grade 1, in a school, having lots of fights, having lots of complaints about her. Again, she was, so grade 1, I think she was 6. And the school had called the police. So the police came to the school, and the child was handcuffed by her hands and her feet because no one in the school could control this child's behavior. Because they said, she was being aggressive, she was being hurtful. So 6-year-old, probably 50 pounds. Again, this story hit the media, and immediately the mom did ask for the child's school to be changed. So the child went to a new school, and there was absolutely no reports of behavior, no incidences of aggression. The mom wasn't being called about the behavior. And what it turns out is the child was being bullied, right? But because the school, and as I said, the school is an institution. Yes. The school is an institution, right? Because the school had kind of developed this, when a child gets a reputation of being a troublemaker or getting into fights, then they don't listen to that child's version of the story. So the girl was saying she was being bullied, but they always had blamed the little girl. And then next thing, traumatizing her by having police coming and handcuffing her by
6 years old.
6 years old.
6 years old.
And again, I'm not saying we excuse children who have poor behaviors, but how is it at the new school, who is also in Peel, there are no behaviors and the child is doing well and there aren't calls from parents? So I think, again, we have to advocate for our children. We have to make sure we are their voice when their voice is not being heard in this system, and they are being criminalized, right? It's criminalized or even put in imaginary jails. The other thing that I would talk about is documenting everything, documenting all these conversations you're having with the school. When the school is calling you and saying this is happening, making sure that you're not just getting one version of the story, you're getting your child's version of the story. If there are any other teachers in the playground, you're talking to them and finding out, what do you see is happening? Because if a teacher, because teachers are human, as all of us are, right? Mm-hmm. If a teacher maybe is rubbed the wrong way by a child,
they have a bias against your child,
have a bias, then you might not be getting the story that is the full comprehensive story. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're documenting, make sure you're showing up, make sure you are the voice. And yes, sometimes you take that deep breath when you're going into schools and before responding. I mean, as I said, we're not excusing any behaviors, but we're making sure that we're getting the full, complete story. And we are advocating for our children within the system, because the system doesn't always have their best interests.
I think that also, too, with some parents, a lot of us are first-generation Canadians, maybe second. And with parents that are coming from other countries, they have this great belief, the great Canada, the great United States, that when they send you to school, you're in the very best care possible. And that's not always the case. And there are so many amazing teachers. I'm so happy. I can barely take care of my child all day. Like, it is amazing what they do. But as you said, teachers are human beings with their own biases, with their own prejudice. Sometimes people's energies just don't mix. They just don't like the child. And that's where you come in. You showing up at parent-teacher interviews, knowing what's going on, speaking to them, and advocating for your children, being aware of what's going on in the school. Just the two examples you've given me, I'm shocked. I'm completely shocked that I don't even care if it was 10 years ago, that this could be happening in modern times in our school systems.
Yeah, and these are both recent, and these are both schools that, are within the Peel community. So I didn't go far to get these examples or to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it's, when you talk about communication, have a communication book, write back and forth to the teacher. If you have to set up calls after school, I know that Camar definitely does calls to teachers, whatever time of morning or night that she needs to make sure that, they know that we are children's advocate. And we don't, it's not that, it is very different than it was back home, wherever back home was, where the schools were more part of the community, right?
100%, yeah.
Sometimes we have teachers that, have no real connection to the community and
It's just
no
a
real
job.
connection to the children they're
Yeah.
teaching. And you know, I'll also say they're quite overwhelmed, right? Like the school my son is assigned to, they had 28 kids in the kindergarten class. 28 kids is a lot of 5 and 6-year-olds who this is their first experience in the school system.
Well, for anybody who ever has had a 5 or 6-year-old, you know that one of them is often too many. So I cannot imagine 28, and that's why I commend them. And you know, I've been very blessed throughout my school career, my children's school career, for them to meet teachers that were exceptional human beings. Miss Lynn, if you are out there, again, I can never thank you enough for what you've done for Kai. I hope you see this. There are tremendous teachers out there. But in order for the tremendous teachers to be able to do their jobs, the tremendous parents need to step up. And together we can raise a generation of children. It's a very open world now, and as scary as it is, because a lot of the regular jobs and the norms of the past have gone, there's so much more opening up for them, and we can position them to take advantage of this this world that is wireless and works. You know, you can do business across borders. Ladies, I just can't thank you enough for being here today, for blessing my audience with the information that you have, your resources. The Malton Moms, you will find them on Facebook, on Instagram. You will find Camar's information, Nadine's information, Crystal's information on the screen. Put comments underneath. If you'd like to reach out to someone, put comments. We will see them. We'll respond. I'll forward messages. So once again, I thank you for joining us for this episode of What Matters, Parental Advocacy, the Malton Moms, Connecting Communities. Thank you so much.
Thanks
you did
for
good.
having
For jumping in.
We saved the best for last.
Yes, we saved the best for last. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you again next Tuesday. And Andrew will be back, and we will help you with all the stuff that's in your minds. We'll see you next week.